Marvin Makinen, a calm, serious American student, drove to the Soviet border in a Volkswagen Beetle in the summer of 1961. Makinen was halted at the border as he informed the border guards that he was ready to set off on a weeks-long car journey trip throughout the USSR. He explained his plan to explore the continent, experience its rich history, and, like many tourists, marvel at the Iron Curtain that divided East and West. They waved him through into the Socialist Ukraine shortly after. Little did Makinen know that it was not the border guards he needed to worry about, but the KGB, who were already onto him. Marvin had been approached by American intelligence officers in West Berlin some time before, who encouraged Makinen to proceed on the tour to acquire information about Soviet military and civilian infrastructure. He accepted the dangerous mission without hesitation, which was owed to his hatred with how communist countries mistreated their citizens. It is a story largely forgotten. This is the story of the Volkswagen spy. Marvin's journey. Marvin William Makinen, born on August 19th in 1939 in Michigan, had a particular interest in biochemistry and molecular biology, and showed early precocity in mathematics. He was awarded a scholarship to study as an exchange student in Germany, which resulted in studying chemistry in West Berlin. Marvin spoke fluent German and Finnish, which he learned from his family members, and took private lessons in Russian. Short, slight, with corn silk blonde hair, he was not a big hit with the girls at the university because, as he was known and seen as someone who would always rather be alone, Marvin is completely oblivious to the fact that his world will be turned upside down as he got contacted by the U.S. intelligence services during his study. When summer vacation came, Makinen set out in a rented green sunroof Volkswagen Beetle for a trip through East Germany and Poland to Moscow. The CIA got wind of his plans for a road trip and saw in him a perfect potential candidate for a spying operation to gather information on Soviet military and civilian infrastructure. Given his affinity with the language, he could get out of trouble whenever he faced it. After initial contact, he accepted the assignment because he was patriotic and disagreed with the way the communist nations oppressed their own citizens. He reportedly was approached by two people called Jim and Dwyer, who were seen giving him instructions. These instructions were what military installations to photograph, which route to take, and which places to go. The intelligence officers gave Makinen a camera and funds for travel expenses, and he set off in a rented Volkswagen Beetle that summer, after the semester had ended. As Makinen approached the Soviet border, he was initially met with suspicion by the border guards, but his demeanor and appearance as a harmless tourist played in his favor. However, behind the scenes, the KGB had been monitoring his movements. Marvin's seemingly spontaneous road trip had raised red flags within the intelligence community, especially given the tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union during the height of the Cold War. As it turns out, Marvin belonged to a large group of students and tourists recruited by the CIA to spy on the Soviet Union. Unfortunately, sometimes the program had very troubling outcomes. The mission. Makinen reportedly was never informed about his car being outfitted with sophisticated eavesdropping equipment and spying devices. To him, it was just a mode of transportation. To the CIA, it was the ultimate spying device on wheels. The Volkswagen Beetle was the perfect cover, as it was a popular car throughout Europe at the time, making it less likely to arouse suspicion. Having Makinen in the dark about this equipment would also make him less nervous when approached by the Soviets. He was tasked with collecting audio recordings of conversations and activities in the vicinity of the Soviet border. The listening devices concealed within his car could intercept communications and capture potentially vital intelligence. Makinen's ability to blend in as a typical American tourist gave him the perfect cover. When Makinen asked his American handlers what he should do if he was caught, the student was told he would have to wiggle out as best you can. Makinen performed some of his tasks religiously, and everything seemed to go fine until July 27th. According to a Russian report, he had parked his Volkswagen in an inconspicuous spot and flagged a taxi to take him to a military installation near the city. According to the report, Makinen made some locals suspicious of his activities. There, he had been seized by security agents and a Soviet Army officer as his trembling hands tried to get rid of the camera. Upon searching his car, the agents found 8 rolls of film, road maps, and other impediments, including notebooks with pages torn out. It was not revealed whether or not the spying and surveillance equipment was found at the same search or that it happened in a later stage. His notebook was an important piece, as the Soviets found out later on during their research into Makinen. A sample of his notebook goes as follows. Near the city, I ate 3 sandwiches. At 156 kilometers, it started raining, and I encountered peasants. These seemingly innocent notes were, as you might have guessed, cryptograms. 3 sandwiches were hinted at 3 military installations. 156 was the license of an army truck, and peasants was code for soldiers. Makinen later revealed that he, and I quote, totally underestimated how wary and suspicious the Soviets were. Nothing goes unnoticed, and with the slightest worry, the military or police is informed. It was found out that Makinen was hiding in the bushes near military complexes and immediately tried to hide his camera whenever someone passed by. It's no wonder people got suspicious. A man came to stop him and brought him to the gates of the very complex he was attempting to photograph. He did not resist, as running away would cause more trouble. Makinen was promptly detained and tried to expose his camera roll to the daylight to destroy the evidence, but failed to do so as he was stopped from succeeding in it. He was in for a rigorous period of interrogation by the KGB. His trial and captivity. As he awaited trial, he realized that there was absolutely no question about his motives and would not be able to get out of being charged. The KGB obtained the films that he had taken, and there were no obvious tourist observations and photographs to be found in it. He was moved to a hotel nearby for a couple of days. After being sent to an interrogation prison of the KGB, where he spent 3 months in solitary confinement and interrogation. Makinen, who had just turned 22 before his trial, potentially faced the death penalty. After suffering through enormous stress during his interrogation, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison and 6 years of a labor camp by a military tribunal, totaling 8 years of freedom loss. He was sent to Vladimir Prison, which is 120 miles east of Moscow, and the mental stress continued. Prisoners did a lot of knocking on the walls, and lights were on 24 hours a day. As it turned out, his cellmate told him that an American who was shot down from his plane was being held 2 cells away from him. This was Gary Powers, the pilot of the U-2 spy plane, which was caught by the Soviets as well. In the end, Makinen's fate took a twist that no one had anticipated. After a protracted trial and international negotiations, he was eventually released as part of a prisoner exchange between the United States and the Soviet Union. This is, as well as the case of Gary Powers, depicted in the movie Bridge of Spies. This exchange was emblematic of the complex and intricate relationships between intelligence agencies and the governments they served during the Cold War. Marvin Makinen soon resumed his scientific career, but his prison experience has continued to have a major impact on his life, as he has dedicated some portion of it toward getting to the bottom of the case of Raoul Wallenberg, a Swedish diplomat who was caught by the Soviets and whose fate still remained unclear. He had heard stories about his captivity long after the Soviets had declared him dead, and was dedicated to reaching out to his relatives. The story of Marvin Makinen, the Volkswagen spy, serves as a captivating chapter in the annals of espionage history. It underscores the high-stakes nature of Cold War espionage and the length to which intelligence agencies went to gather critical information. Thank you all for watching, and hope to see you all in the next video.